Let's go. Are we actually on? You're here listening with Kayla
and Georgia,
bringing you real, raw, and relatable chats on the Evolve to Thrive podcast.
Stay tuned because shit's about to get juicy as we dive into all things health, fitness, life, and relationships.
Let's go. Woo. Hello, everybody. On today's episode, I am here to discuss a very controversial topic, and that is around tracking macros, meal plans, and intuitive eating. So I'm going to discuss kind of what each of these are, when each are relevant, and also how it depends on the individual, because I think some people can get really carried away with one method versus the other. And I know that it's such a controversial topic in the fitness industry, and it particularly came across my attention today. So I want to talk about all three methods, and I particularly want to talk about which one would be most beneficial during the festive season. So therefore, I thought I would kind of speak about how we can move away from tracking our macros and following a more intuitive and mindful approach of eating, particularly at this time of year, because it is really important for us to adopt a bit of balance, enjoy some time with our family, and also, of course, stay on track with our goals. Now, I am accompanied with Peter today.
Hello.
He is here to drop in case I sound too boring, because
I can ask the dumb questions.
Yeah, Peter's here to answer.
I'll fill the gaps.
Hang on. You're going to ask the dumb questions and I'll answer them for you.
Yeah, you can answer the dumb questions.
So let's pretty much get into it. Shall we?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So I'm going to start with the craving or tip of the week. And Peter, you're going to make the start. Craving or tip for the week.
Yeah. So we had this chat before we started. I was like, it's the craving is from 2 weeks ago, which is a problem. I literally ate it before you came upstairs. So I made Amy pasta.
Yeah.
But I made like a pesto kale fucking cashew thing.
Had to be semi-healthy, you know?
It's gone on further. Like the dopamine release from pasta is a real problem. And so
what's next?
And the tip is don't eat it. Stop eating pasta.
Do you know what? You've triggered me.
Yeah.
The tip is avoid your temptations, because as soon as you give into your temptation, it's like anything. You have it and you want more.
I haven't had pasta in so long, and it was like the proper Italian stuff, and it's just like, it's really good too, which is like the worst part, but yes.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
What about you?
My craving or tip, I'm actually going to provide a useful tip today, because I feel like the majority of my check-ins for this week, which is pretty much the whole conversation of today, has been thought about from the conversations I've had with my clients this week.
Oh, no way.
But the tip is to just do meal prep companies during this time of year. No one wants to meal prep. No.
Who's your go-to?
That's okay. So I've got a few. But in a nutshell, I think meal prep companies as a whole, regardless of which company you go with, they're just a great idea, because, you know, if you decide to do your meal prep at the start of the week, then things come up, people ask you out to go out for drinks or have a social thing. And it's like, fuck, I've done all my meal prep and now it's going in the bin and it's a waste.
Yeah.
So what I say instead is go with a meal prep company and actually put a lot of the meals in the freezer and just leave like 1, 2, or 3 out in the fridge.
Okay.
And then that way, your food's not going to get wasted. Also, you don't have to sit in the kitchen cooking, cleaning, prepping, weighing, tracking.
Yeah.
It's a matter of get it out of the freezer, put it in MyFitnessPal, barcode scan it, you're done.
That's fucking easy.
And you get variety. And then that way, like, if you want pasta or you want a meal that is kind of more of your go-to, like, you don't have to sit there working out all the calories and the macros and this and that.
And your portions are perfect.
And I was going to say, and your portion is actually maintained.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just end up.
Well, especially because you're going to, like, I call it like the banking season, right?
Yeah.
Whenever anything's kind of like, I had drinks yesterday after work. So I just banked the half day, but I had to panic bank because I didn't know exactly how much.
And you know what the issue with that is? Most people fall short of their protein.
Yeah.
So like if you calorie bank, cool. But you then need to make sure that, as we spoke about on the podcast last week with Audrey, you really do want to make sure that leading up to the event that you're actually nourishing your body with good quality food.
Yeah. And
you're also trying to actually hit your protein before you even go out and opt for those lower calorie, high food volume options.
Okay.
So I think a meal prep company is good because if you opt for something that's high in protein in those meals, it's going to help you out. So tip of the week, invest in a meal prep company so then you can just literally make your meal prep way easier. And my recommendations would be Papa Macros and also Food for Fitness. I'll leave some discount codes in the show notes for this one so that people can check them out. But to be honest, like My Muscle Chef, Macros is another one. Even the ones that they have at the supermarket, like U Foods and My Muscle Chef and just some of the other core foods. There's a number of them that are there.
Foods have been around for ages.
Yeah. So to be honest, any of them, just check the label, look for protein, try and get about, 30 to 40 grams of protein in each meal prep company meal. And then depending on what your goal is, whether you're in a calorie deficit, a fat loss phase, that'll all determine on, how many calories you want per meal.
How do you feel about the U-Food stuff? Because that
honest,
was like one of the first bigger chain ones.
U-Foods is actually a bit shit.
It's right. It is. Yeah, no, because we did it for ages when I first moved in here with my ex. And I noticed that after a while, I'm like, the portions were low and the quality of the food was low. And then I was just super hungry and the food was kind of crap.
Yeah. And the macros aren't as great in them either.
That's the big thing. Like, so you're not fucking screwing yourself over and you're not eating much.
When I talk about
meatballs and stuff. And
literally. When I talk about macro friendly, what I refer to people, and when I say things to my clients, make sure it's macro friendly. What I usually say is for most people that are in a calorie deficit, if you want it to be macro friendly, you want it to be lower in carbs and fats and higher in protein.
Yeah.
So that breakdown may look something like 40 grams of protein, 5 to 10 grams of fats, and anywhere between 20 to 30 grams of carbs per meal. Some of those U-Foods meals would be like 60 grams of carbs.
It's very carb heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then not as much protein. Like the protein amount might only be like 15 to 20. So you want it to be like 30 to 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into what the difference is between meal plans, tracking macros, and intuitive eating. Before we get into that, what do you do at the moment?
Well, I'm on a meal plan with my coach.
Yeah.
So with his app, I'm actually able to scale out. So I have a bit of room for each meal. To change it up. And we just did. So I went into a bit of a panic coming into Christmas and was like, I can go hard in this little gap we've got coming up.
Yeah.
And then kind of get into that rhythm, relax in Christmas, and then come out strong again because I've got everything ready to go.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you did with your clients today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that would be where we're rocking at the moment. So it's just like protein shake with peanut butter and in the morning.
Are you going to go through your meal plan? Yeah, go.
Yeah, I know we don't have to. And then it's just like tuna wrap middle of the day, and then your heavy chicken breast protein, some potatoes and veg. Yeah, that's pretty basic.
Yeah.
So
meal plan.
Basic. Yeah.
So what happens when you've got a social event?
So I'll try and bank and roll back probably. Well, because that's so low in calorie now, I could probably get away with it.
Yeah.
But previously, when it was higher in calorie, I'd take out kind of like the bigger meal and just try sit. And if I could make it through training and getting out, and I wasn't because I get hypoglycemic as fuck.
Yeah. So with your meal plan, is that set to like your maintenance calories or is that set to your
currently
deficit?
It's deficit now, and it's like 16, 80, 17, depending on like if I change anything out. Yeah, because my metabolism's shot.
Oh,
this is what happens when you're 120 kilos and you've dieted all the way down and it goes up and it comes down.
Yes.
I can't.
So do you struggle to lose body fat?
It's fucked. So I've tried to. So we tried going up. I was on like 2,600 for ages.
Yeah.
And then like to kind of push it up and get stronger and then cut back. And I just put heaps of weight on. I got way stronger. But then when you tried to come back down,
gain body fat.
It would still like crawl down until if I get down, like I can get down to 1,600 and that will move consistently. And I think it's just that metabolic damage from being so heavy, dieting wrong when you first start. And then like now I'm in this shit spot where it's like, what's my maintenance? My maintenance is probably about 1,900. My body's just adjusted to that.
Yeah.
Which is
that, and it's shit that people have to go through that before they realize, like dieting for such a long time does do damage to your metabolism.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So would you say that at the moment then with tackling the festive season, so you've got this meal plan that's set to a deficit, but then when you've got social events, it's kind of like a buffet that you actually end up at maintenance across the week.
Yeah. I'm lucky because I've done it for so long. I can eyeball what's happening and be like, okay. And if I'm going to go over, I'm still going to try and train through it. I'm going to try and train Christmas Day, Boxing Day, kind of all the way through.
Yep.
So that's like my one kind of like, if I do go over, we've got some activity happening still.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
This is all right. This leads me into this is a really good segue into some habits that people can actually keep during the festive season. But then I'm going to talk about the comparison of all three of those: meal plans, tracking, and also intuitive eating, and also moving away from tracking your macros so that you can just eat more mindfully. And as you mentioned about the eyeballing, this all comes with experience.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And I want to highlight that when it comes to intuitive eating, you cannot be intuitive if you have no understanding of energy balance. Like if you don't weigh your food regularly and you don't actually know what a portion looks like of a particular meal, if you don't weigh your food, you don't track your food, how on earth can you be intuitive?
Correct.
If you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not something you can learn quickly. It takes like months.
It takes a long time. Yeah.
And it's, as someone who is not the biggest fan of it anymore, I still need to do it if I want to hit the goals quickly and efficiently.
Yes.
And it does suck, but it's like that necessary evil. And once you get it under your belt, you're kind of okay.
It gets easy over time.
It does.
Yeah. We'll talk about the 3 in a minute, but I think with what you said about making exercise a priority to balance it out, my personal opinion in I think what people should actually focus on at this time of year, because at the end of the day, you don't need to just forget about your training and forget about your food and eat whatever the fuck you want and just kind of have that blowout. Because so often people will go through a cut leading up to Christmas, and then Christmas hits, they gain 5-10 kilos, and then it's like, all right, January, we're back on, let's go hard, let's go into a diet. It's like, well, why? Like, do you need to do that? You don't. You really don't need to do that. Because if you're educated, you can start realizing that the habits that you build over time are actually going to allow you to keep those results into this festive season. If you're educated and you build those habits and you build that routine, you're pretty much going to maintain that routine over this festive period.
That's a big thing.
And if you have more of a sustainable approach for the long term, like you're also going to be able to maintain those results. So in terms of habits that you should keep, I think daily movement is one of them. So if you train, there's no reason why you can't train over this time of year. I also want to stress that you don't need to expend more energy and ramp up your cardio or increase and do double sessions to make up for the food that you're eating. Yeah. I think that can be very detrimental, and I feel like people should definitely avoid
put you
that.
off. Yeah.
So I feel like daily movement, so whatever you continue doing, you know, if you usually train 5 days a week, train 5 days a week. Yeah. If you usually train 3 days a week, maintain that same gym regime, I would say.
Yep.
Daily steps. If you know, during work, you're a sedentary worker, you're an office worker and you struggle to hit your, 10,000 steps and you only get 6,000, maybe when you take a week off, like when you take a couple of weeks off for holidays, maybe you can focus more on just a daily step count and things like that.
And the big thing with your step counts is it gives you that time to get away from, if you're with a family, to get away from everyone, to do that and reset and then come back.
Yeah.
I only just got this recently, doing it in the mornings. It lets me kind of relax, get calm, get my coffee, come back. And I've done 10,000 steps before it's like, 7 a.m. sort of thing.
Is this a double whammy? Because one of the other habits I think that everyone should kind of keep over this time is a mindfulness activity every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So would you say that your daily walk is a combination of your mindfulness activity and also your daily movement?
It's ironically enough, I feel like all working out is part of the mindfulness stuff.
Yeah.
Like today was a hard day at work, and the only breaks were, because I've incorporated into my work schedule now, so I train at lunchtime.
Yep.
And then my escape to crew at lunch is like fucking saves my life.
Yeah.
Like the day's horrible and I'm like, nah, I'm gone for an hour and a bit. I'll be back.
Mental clarity.
Yeah. And you can just you get a bit tired towards the end of the day. That's fine. But it lets you reset. It lets you take time just to not worry about all the bullshit. And it happens in the festival.
100%. Yeah. It just keeps you sane, and keeping that habit will allow you to also continue making progress, So yeah, continue with your daily movement, continue with a mindfulness activity, whether that is journaling every night before you go to bed, whether it's a 5-minute meditation every day, whether it is going for a walk by yourself, switching off. Any of those kind of things are great to continue doing. Your water intake and your sleep, are two other things you can pay attention to. Okay.
Sleep's going to be the hard one over the break for the younger ones.
I was going to say sleep is important. And trust me, now that I've started going out again and having big nights on the weekends, I am feeling it and I am not happy with myself for it.
So when you have like a really bad sleep, right, is it detrimental? Say you only get 4 hours. Should you still train? Should you basically look at what's coming up in your training and be like, okay, do I need to dial back because I'm exhausted, or
do you feel like your training session will be shit?
Yeah, I do, but I could push through it. I think what confused me was all this Whoop sleep tracking shit, where they're like, okay, you had horrible sleep, and they like try and scale back your training.
Yes.
Should you still push if you can?
I think this is if you're having 4 hours of sleep repeatedly and it's caught up to you and you're really exhausted.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Yeah.
If you are someone who is as bad as this sounds, if you're someone that is used to functioning off minimal sleep and it's kind of the norm for you, train. Okay. But if you're someone who usually has a really good sleep hygiene and you've had, shit sleep and you're actually very fatigued, your body's telling you to slow the fuck down. Yeah. Don't train.
Okay.
Is my response to that. Yeah. Like, for example, me, I this is my little resolution for January. My resolution for January is to get the fuck in order with my sleep pattern, because it really is on average 6 hours a night, and I'm not happy about it.
And you're staying up too late because you're up early regardless.
I have to make a commitment. Insane. I have to make a commitment to train. No, I don't. Well, this is the thing. It slowly dragged out. I used to train at 5:30 every morning. It slowly become 6:30.
That's still early.
And I'm late to school every day.
It's only because your standard is so fucking high. And you're like, 6:30s. I'm like, I'm trying to get up at 6, and there are some days I'm like, God damn, I can't do it. Can't do it. It's too fine.
This is where we can talk about priorities, because I clearly have my priorities elsewhere. Yeah. So I am showing up to work later. Because I'm like, well, I need to train and I need to sleep, and I'm trying to put all these things in order. But I'm like, the one thing that I'm definitely compromising at the moment is my sleep. So goal into the new year is to definitely move towards 7 hours of sleep a night.
It sounds ridiculous, but it's so tricky to like lock that in.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to do so much stuff.
Yeah. You know? So it's like, I want to train. I want to make sure I get my 7 hours of sleep, but I need to get all my tasks done. So yeah, it's time management, right? Which is also an area of improvement for me. But anyway, your habits of success. Still train, daily movement, get a good sleep routine in, 7 hours preferably, a mindfulness activity, your water intake, 2 liters a day, ideally, anywhere between 2 to 3. I generally say to my clients 2. Some coaches say 3, but that's also very unrealistic for some people. So 2 liters is optimal, especially if you're drinking alcohol, people. Get your water in.
You should drink more, right, if you dehydrate.
Yes. Yeah, because alcohol dehydrates you. Yeah. And then the lucky last habit would be meal plan. Still meal plan, guys, honestly. And I'm going to get into this as well with the whole flexible dieting and intuitive eating. I think people should still meal plan, and I think they should still prepare, because that will allow you to have some level of control and stay somewhat on track if you're planning and organizing your meals. And that's why my recommendation was the meal prep companies, because that can make your meal planning a lot easier. Yeah. It's about simplifying the process, because you want to live your life. You want to enjoy. You want to go and have a drink. You want to go and eat out and dine out and enjoy time with friends and family. But you want to keep a lid on it to some degree as well. That's because there's the temptation to completely go crazy. Yeah. I was going to say that to you before. Yeah. We can talk about that too. Yeah. We can talk about that too. So, yeah, we've talked about the habits that you should keep. And I think now we should talk a little bit about where I lie on the spectrum of meal plans, tracking macros, and intuitive eating. And I want to highlight that this is all my own personal opinion, and no method is the wrong or right method. And I think every method has its place. Every method can be beneficial or detrimental to the client, depending on their needs, depending on their habits, and depending on their previous experience as well. So about the 3, so meal plans is obviously, as Peter was mentioning, his coach will set him a meal plan, and that is essentially what he eats Monday to Friday. there's a whole lot of spectrum on meal plans, but you're pretty much given a meal plan and you're expected to adhere to the plan that's in play.
Context was that was done because we tried to intuitively eat, and then I was going out bounds of it, and we were having consistency issues.
Yes.
And my personality type, like you said, it's all tailored to the person. My personality type, if you give me instructions, mate, I will smash it out of the park.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
And again, it depends on. All right, I'll describe what each method is, and then I'll talk about the pros and the cons of each. So that is what a meal plan essentially is. And if your coach is working with you and not against you, they're going to develop a meal plan that you actually enjoy so that you stick to it. Because at the end of the day, what you do, whether it's meal plans, whether it's tracking macros, or whether it's intuitive eating, whatever is going to allow you to be adherent and be compliant is the method that you should do. And the method that you enjoy the most is the method that you should do. And that's, I think, what I should highlight. So besides meal planning, you can track your macros, and tracking your calories and your macros will entail a series of numbers that you can track using MyFitnessPal. And that is essentially a currency for energy. So what we eat is energy. When we exercise, we are burning energy, and when we eat food, we're consuming energy. Okay.
Move more, eat less, lose weight. Yeah.
And that's the energy. The energy balance whole concept essentially is consume and then you output. So if they're out of whack, okay, if you're eating more than you're burning, then you're essentially going to gain weight. If you are eating less than you are burning, hang on.
You'd lose weight then.
You'd lose weight. And if they're the same, then you would maintain your weight.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where the whole calorie deficit, calorie surplus maintenance comes in. That is for a whole nother topic, which we can do in January. But like when it comes to tracking your macros, people do like this method because it does allow more flexibility and more freedom. I will talk about negatives of macro tracking shortly. But yeah, what that does do is allows more flexibility for people. So they're not boxed into a meal plan. They can kind of have a little bit more freedom. And yeah, usually the method of that is tracking in MyFitnessPal or another tracking app. And that's where you're obviously tracking your protein, your carbs, and your fats usually. They're your 3 macronutrients. And then you've got intuitive eating, which is I'm going to eat what I feel like when I want, how I want. I'm going to listen to my body. And we can
dangerous.
And that is very dangerous for the normal person. So like a lot of people, like I know that I see this on social media. It's like, be intuitive, do this, do that. And my opinion on intuitive eating is you are given the privilege to do this when you are educated enough to do so.
Yeah.
If you are not educated, this is just honestly a recipe for disaster.
But it's still tricky, right? Like
It's
even
still
if you're
tricky.
educated, you can still fuck up.
100%.
Yeah.
But listen to me. If I said to you, Peter, eat how you like,
And
eat how you feel.
we spoke about this before.
Listen
It'd be
to your
pasta,
body.
Pizza, it'd be horrible.
It would be a diet that is a calorie surplus,
Yeah.
and probably a diet that you're going to gain a lot of weight from.
100%.
And if that's not your goal, then the intuitive eating is probably not the right answer.
Yeah.
And another question I get all the time is, can I lose weight without tracking my macros? And like the short answer is, yeah, you can. But like, do you want to be more specific?
Yeah.
Do you want to have results that like, I always say that what gets tracked gets what you track, and what you measure can be managed. So
Right.
it just allows, if you're more in line with actual numbers, then it works well.
And you need the measure too. If you don't know how you did it, and you just like, I was like, I just randomly decided to eat less and started eating less. You're like, well, how much did you eat less?
Yeah.
Did you? And you can end up in a space like I did. So because I'm way too old. Before MyFitnessPal, like when that first came
The
out
point
on the iPhones,
system, are you going to say?
No. Like we
Oh.
would just do chicken and broccoli, and you know what I mean. Like, and it was just so arbitrary.
Yes.
That you ended up in these massive deficits.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
that's
you
the
do
thing.
caloric damage, like because you've done way too much. And yes, you lose a lot of weight, but like then you make it harder later on for yourself.
Okay,
you know?
now we can talk about the pros and cons then, because
Yep.
a con of a meal plan is exactly that. So if you're following a meal plan that is generic and
Yep.
it is from someone who you know when you see what I eat in a day on Instagram, if you see that and you're like, oh, this person ate this, so I'm going to follow that meal plan.
Yeah.
Well, that's completely not tailored to you, and
No.
you could be putting yourself in a very extreme deficit, like a very aggressive deficit. Short answer, you're going to lose weight. Great. Good on you. But what happens when you can't stick to that meal plan? What happens when you feel really restricted on that meal plan? And what happens when you've got a social setting? It doesn't teach you anything. A meal plan does not teach you anything unless you're working with a coach that does meal plans and is educating you along the way. So when I think a meal plan is beneficial, so on the contrary to that, I definitely believe that meal plans have their place, and I definitely think that they're a fantastic resource for a beginner who is new to tracking their macros. Because if you have never tracked macros before, it is a very overwhelming process, and it can really lead you in the wrong direction as well. So if you're not given any guidance, any structure of how your day of eating should look, if you don't have a general idea of nutrition, a meal plan is a really good starting point, because it can allow you to see how your day should be broken up, what a meal should look like. And I always teach my clients that 80-20 approach. So if I give them a sample meal plan that shows how they can hit their protein in a day, how they can have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and still incorporate foods that they love, that's going to set them up for more success, because then they can see visually exactly what that looks like. Then they can start tracking their macros and tracking that meal plan, and then start working out how they can create their own meal plan that works for them.
Exactly.
So I think when it comes to tracking macros, and then I will say that my preference above all three methods is tracking macros.
Yeah.
Like when I work with a client, usually it's tracking macros as the preference, but I'll always give them a sample meal plan. And I'll always give them a sample meal plan, because it allows them to see exactly how their day should be broken up. And if they are new to tracking, they will know exactly what food sources will allow them to hit protein. And I'm not just giving them a meal plan and saying, hey, how you going? Like, go defend for yourself. Yeah. Make sure you follow it to the T. So it's a bit like, this is a guide. This is what you can use for inspiration to develop your own meal plan. So when I say I'm against meal plans, I'm absolutely not against meal plans, because I actually make my clients create a meal plan.
Yeah, effectively, that's right.
Yeah. So they are sending me a meal plan every week, because it allows them to be organized and have structure, which again, a con of tracking macros is that you could end up just winging it on the day, winging it on the fly, and
that's hard.
And just going, I feel like this today, I'm going to track that. Oh, if it fits my macros, I can eat whatever the fuck I want. Perfect. I'm going to eat this, 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 and this. And then I get to the end of the day and I'm like, shit, I'm 30 grams short of protein, you know?
Yeah. And then you do this like that frantic panic to like fit it, and I can't quite have a protein
and then
shake.
It's a bit of Tetris. I mean, tracking macros at the end of the day is Tetris.
Yeah. But it's more sustainable when you've done that planning. And that's what's going to help you succeed. If you're doing this stuff where it's always like a clamor and you're always kind of a bit stressed because you've kind of buggered it up, you're less likely to continue on with it.
Yeah.
So the way you do it is the right way, and I think the consistent way, and that way will save you in the long run.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you can, once you figure it out, just do.
And like you just need feedback from someone to teach you how to track your food properly. Another con that I want to mention about tracking macros is a lot of people get under the impression that they track their macros, and there's a lot of conversation around tracking macros to be negative. And the reason that people say that it's so negative is because they end up with an eating disorder, or they end up too food obsessed, or they can't go out for a meal because they can't let go of tracking their food.
Yeah.
And I think something that I like to really preach to my clients is that tracking your macros is a tool. Like this is one way that you can pull the reins in and really adhere to a calorie deficit with a little bit of flexibility. But when you become that obsessed with food tracking that you cannot go out without eating, as in you cannot go out socially and dine out because you're so boxed into food tracking and you can't not track a meal, that's not healthy either.
No,
so
that needs to be addressed for sure.
There's different like things of the spectrum, you know, like when is a meal plan good versus when it's not? When is tracking macros good versus when it's not?
Yeah.
And the thing is you kind of have a blend of all three methods across the year. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
times when you're more strict and more rigid.
Correct.
That's probably when you're going to track your macros rigidly, you know, because you've got more control. You can see the data. You can see whether you're in a calorie deficit or you're not. If you don't want the mental capacity of tracking macros, then a meal plan can be great because it's simplistic and you don't have to track, and then you can stay adherent by following that. Then another good thing about tracking macros is that it educates you. So it allows you to actually learn what's in your food. And where other people go wrong is like only tracking a deficit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So if you're only tracking your food in a deficit, well, most likely you're eating well.
Yeah.
You
It's
know?
like best possible case scenario.
It's the
and you're
best
you don't
possible case
understand what,
scenario. Yeah.
is in the burger at Macca's and all that sort of stuff.
And if you're
'Cause you never
young,
tracked it.
that's the thing, right? It's you're like, oh shit. Or you go, oh, perfect, I can have a burger. It's only this many calories. But what I notice with younger girls particularly is they will go into tracking their food, but then they set their goals at really low calories, or the goal is to stay under a certain calorie range or be on 1,200 calories, because that's what MyFitnessPal tells you if you want to lose a kilo a week. You know, so
Yeah,
you
that's
need
so
to
generic calorie generating is horrible.
Horrible.
A guy at work was on, and a big boy, he was like 6 foot something.
Yeah.
They had him on like 1,700 calories starting. He'd never dieted before. And I couldn't say anything, but I was like, you should probably check that. Like, that's not safe for you.
So yeah, that's a big red flag. Make sure that if you're not educated about tracking your macros, honestly, just invest into a coach and do it right the first place. Like actually get someone who's going to teach you how to do it properly.
Yeah.
Who is actually going to set your targets personalized to you,
And ask them how they
tailored
did
to
it.
you. Yeah, learn. Like a girl fitness, lol.
Yeah, no, for sure though.
But it's true.
So powerful.
It's true. If you also track in a surplus, if you track at maintenance, you're going to learn what's in your food.
Yeah.
And when clients come to me, I will initially get them trying to track their weekends. And that is purely to educate them. But once they've done that a few times, it's like, okay, well, now you know how many calories are in that meal out. Like you can now just calorie bank that for next time. Rather than getting them so fixated on it. But let's now move on to the intuitive eating, because I feel like this warrants another episode.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this definitely warrants another episode, more about the pros and the cons. But in summary, all of them have their place. All of them have cons. All of them have pros. And I have highlighted the pros and the cons of a meal plan and the pros and the cons of tracking macros. I definitely have more to say, but I think we'll end up here for 10 hours. So I will just kind of brush over that and move on to intuitive eating. And I think the reason I want to highlight this one is because it is this time of year where you probably want to be more intuitive with your eating, you know? And so intuitive eating is when we are more so listening to how we feel and what we are feeling like, eyeballing something, selecting something based on what you desire as well.
Yep.
Okay. And essentially not tracking your food and not following a meal plan. Doing whatever the fuck you want when you want.
Yeah.
But you want it to be controlled. You want to be, when you are being a mindful eater, you still want to have that conscious checklist in the back of your mind. So I usually say to people, if you've been tracking your food for like a year, even 6 months to a year, you've also been weighing your food for that matter, you've got a pretty good understanding of what a portion looks like. You've got a pretty good understanding of what protein looks like, how to get your protein in. You've got a good idea of what a carbohydrate source is and how you can actually hit your carbs. You've also got a good idea of your fiber. Now, the checklist that I usually say to people in a day is try and stay within your calorie range, whatever that is, whether you're at maintenance, whether you're in a surplus, or whether you're in a deficit. You want to try and stay within your calorie range. So if you've tracked your intake multiple times, or you've followed a meal plan and you know what those macros are multiple times, you could essentially intuitively eat just because you have done that meal plan before and you've done tracking macros for so long. You can kind of follow that, and you know if you exceed that, you're going to put on some weight that week versus you're going to not gain weight if you can stick to it. So with the intuitive approach, I usually say to people, yeah, if you have been tracking for 6 to 12 months and you do understand that portion control and you do understand how to hit your protein in a day, you can actually start moving towards an intuitive approach, and you can start going out for meals without that pressure or that conscious guilt in the back of your mind that you shouldn't be doing it. Because at this time of year, the last thing you want is to build that relationship with your food and yourself.
Yeah, correct.
Having guilt around this time because you've dined out and because you've exceeded your calories. Sorry, what? Audrey and I spoke last week about calorie banking and calorie cycling. So if you wanted to understand that a bit more, go back and listen to last week's episode, because that can teach you how, if you do go out, go way over your calories and freak out, you can rectify it without messing up everything. And one meal out isn't going to affect you.
Yeah, and also remember too, your lifestyle, because if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably changed. You've built a lifestyle that gives you a bit of room in these fucking spaces.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop training.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You're not done forever. You might be done for a week. You might be done for a couple of days. But you're coming back to what you were doing before. And that is the biggest thing. Think about everyone that's not doing that.
Yeah.
And going nuts. Do you know what I mean? You got to be kind to yourself.
That's it.
As someone who's very harsh, like you just realize, well, I'm training 5 days a week. I'm doing all this stuff. Like it's going to be all right.
I love this. I love this. It's the perfect point to make. Like, be kind to yourself is my biggest piece of advice entering this time of year.
Yeah.
You need to be kind to yourself. You need to accept the fact that fat loss and weight loss is probably not your goal right now.
Yeah.
Like, if you can maintain your condition, perfect. Great. And what I also say is it's a good time of year to have a blend of both. Like, it's okay for you to track your macros a little bit, but then also eat a few meals out that aren't tracked.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to not track at all. It's okay for you to follow a meal plan, but then eat a few meals out that aren't on plan.
Yeah.
You know? So what I usually say to people, if you were looking at your week, what you could do is plan out your week. So you might go, and this would be my version of being an intuitive eater at this time of year. So rather than it being, I'm going to eat whatever I want, when I want, and when someone offers me chocolate, I'm going to say yes every time. And when someone offers me this, I'm going to say yes every time. It's like, no, I'm going to say yes on this time and then no on that time. And then because I can be intuitive, because I've got an understanding of how many calories are in each of those chocolates.
Yeah.
You know, or that cupcake or that whatever particular slice that Rocky Road, whatever gets sent your way at work, because we all know the temptation is there, and that's exactly what we're going to get into, is that temptation. And so if you understand that, you can probably look at your week and go, okay, how many meals am I dining out for this week? How many occasions can I not track my food accurately, or how many times can I not adhere to my meal plan? How many meals am I dining out for, or how many meals do I actually have no idea what the go is going to be? Am I dining out? Am I eating takeaway? Am I saying fuck it, or am I just winging it? So work out how many of those occasions there is going to be. From the data that I've collected in the week that I've done my check-ins, I have pretty much observed that most people in my client base anyway, it's about 3 meals out per week around this festive season.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Which, again, yes, alarms people, because people go, oh, it's not actually that bad. It's like, you're right, it's not. I think people put way too much like pressure on themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
About being 100% compliant. It's like, you don't need to be 100% compliant. You can be 80% compliant.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing, because you do, and then like it builds a better relationship with your coach, because then you get worried. You like try and hide it from your coach. You're like, you got to tell him. They're like,
trust me.
Do you know what I mean?
Trust me. I hate it when you lie. Just be honest. Because I think the best thing is you need to pick a coach that you've got a relationship with on a friendship level. Not, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have a rapport. Yeah, you need to have a rapport with your coach, or at least feel comfortable being honest with them.
Yeah.
You need to be able to be like, you know what? I didn't stick to my plan, and also be honest if you've had a binge eating episode or something. Like if you've completely gone off the rails, your coach is there to support you, and your coach is going to help you rectify that and make you help you set up in a better way the following week. Okay. Transparency is everything. And we're not there to demonize you either, or pick on you for the choices you've made. Yeah.
Don't think of it as like your family and your friends when they bust your balls for eating crazy. The coach is the exact opposite of that. They're in your corner and they're like, all right, it's been shit. what we're going to do to get out of it.
Yeah. And to be honest, most coaches can empathize because we've gone through it too. Even I can talk from personal experience. Like, I'm not 100% compliant all the time. And I think people think that I track my food all the time, and I don't.
Yep.
Like, there'll be times when even in my reverse, for example, it's like I'm honest with Belle every time. Like, if I haven't stuck to something, if I end up having spontaneous plans, which I did last weekend, like I ended up out and I ended up drinking, and it wasn't part of the plan. But you know what? It's like, yeah, I know, because I'm educated enough to understand energy balance and understand calories, I can rectify that, and I can end up breaking even and maintaining my weight across the whole week because I understand this. But again, being able to be intuitive needs to come after you're educated. So it's good to do a long stint of tracking your macros in a season where it is less social. So, you know, over winter and that kind of thing, when you're actually in routine, it's a great time to learn how to track your macros, because then you can develop that education and that knowledge. And so when I do take on X amount of girls and I teach them tracking, because they've tracked, like my clients, they've tracked their food for so long, we approach the festive season and I'm like, right, girls, no one is tracking their food on my fitness. No one is tracking their macros on Christmas.
Yeah. No, I was just getting too many emails.
So no one for the matter, do not track your food on Christmas Day. No one's tracking their macros.
One's tracking. All right.
No My Fitness Pal open on Christmas Day, please. Just
don't uninstall all your fucking logins.
But again, if you are educated, you are gonna opt for the meat on Christmas Day. You're gonna go for the ham and the turkey and the salads and the veggies and a little bit of pudding and chocolate and all the things. But, you know, you're probably less likely going to binge because you've got that understanding, and you're still you're looking at me like you're lying, Kayla.
No, because I was looking at you like, we're around each other too much now, I think. I was like, dude, there's so much pasta around. It's like, it's a problem. The lasagnas and stuff, but it's like a wog thing. Anyway.
So temptation. Intuitive eating will not work if you're fully around temptation. I'll tell you that for free, because I get sucked into.
True.
But let's kind of wrap this up in relation to how I think you should be approaching this festive season with intuitive eating. So go into it with less pressure, less expectations. If you go out, if you look at your whole week, meal plan. If you are not doing anything on 5 days of the week and you're out for 2 days of the week, those other 5 days don't have to be shit as well. Yep. Like, you can actually maintain consistency on those 5 days, still follow the usual meal plan that you would normally have, or still follow the same macro targets that you would usually have. And then you can easily go out for a meal, and it's no big deal. You can easily then have 1 or 2 meals out per week and then follow the rest of your plan as per usual. And you're probably going to maintain your weight over that time.
Yeah. And if you don't,
you don't be kind to yourself.
Kind.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Get there.
But hopefully that's a nice wrap of a difference between intuitive eating, tracking macros, and meal plans. And like I said, if you depending on where you're at in your journey right now, will determine what you want to do and what your preference is. Like, if you actually are someone with serious health and fitness goals and you're determined to be rigid during Christmas, also if you're in a comp prep, well, boo for you, because unfortunately you've got to stick to that protocol, and you do need to be rigid, and you do need to still adhere to a meal plan, and you still need to track your macros within your deviation, like within your set parameters. But to the general population, which is who I work with and who this is usually targeted towards, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. And your relationship with food is way more important as well, I think, at this time of year. Memories over macros does apply at this time of year, but you want to also keep a lid on it. So just remember, we're not following all or nothing. We're following more of an 80-20 approach. You know, stay in routine where possible, but then when you can socialize, actually enjoy it and be present. Don't track, eat intuitively, and above all, have a fucking good time.
Yeah, it's bloody Christmas, guys. It's going to be sweet.
But I want to kind of wrap up this episode with that today. And I just wanted to highlight my opinion on what is the kind of what I think people should be focusing more of their energy on at this time of year. And I also will preface that just because you are flexible dieting doesn't mean you can eat whatever the fuck you want. I still think that you should have a plan. You should still prepare. You still also, if you are someone that is tracking your macros, I think a really good thing that you could do is pre-track your day. Like, don't just track as you go. Actually have the plan, have meals that you enjoy, do some meal prep or get a meal prep company and pre-track in advance. Yeah. Like, look at your protein. And then my final checklist before I wrap up with the intuitive eating approach is look at your day like this. You might, if you know you've got a social event on, you might fast out the morning, then you might get yourself a coffee. If you want to get your fruits and veggies in, like, just think of the bloody Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, like what we're taught in primary school. You know, have your lean protein, have your fruits and veggies, most of your plate fruits and veggies, and then, you know, in moderation, have the sweets, have a bit of alcohol, have some chocolate, have some ice cream, whatever else. Follow that, you know. Start with number one priority should be your protein. Okay, so looking at your plate when you're in a social setting, opt for protein. Then, you know, you want to make sure that you're drinking your water. You also want to try and be getting your fiber in as well. And I think that kind of wraps up, like,
with fiber and like because I'm looking at like the Christmas buffet, which is like usually what's going to fuck everyone up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, go for it. What are we opting for?
Where are we getting fiber from in that? Like, your salad's the generic one, right?
Fruit.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Easy.
You could fruit, seeds, nuts. Not that that's going to be at Christmas lunch.
Yeah. Or they can. There's in some salads.
It could be. But usually fruit is going to be higher in fiber as well. So, let's talk about if I wanted to eat intuitively on Christmas Day, what would I order? What would I eat? Like, we're at a buffet.
Yeah, you're at the Wild Christmas.
We're at the Wild Christmas. How do I fill my plate up?
Yeah, we've got the hams, we've got the prawns.
Prawns first. Prawns and oysters. Oh, baby.
Yeah. And then, so, be prawns, oysters.
Well, that's protein.
That sort of stuff, right? Your salads. But then it's like the naughty salads, like your pasta salads and all that stuff.
Little bit of that. More of the tossed salad, more of the Greek salad.
What else is in there?
Veggies usually. Like, it depends if you have
roast veg. There's going to be heaps of roast veg.
So...
which is fine, right?
That's going to be covered in oil and stuff, but who cares? Just have a little bit of that. Yeah. Like, if you're going to go for seconds on ham and turkey is my opinion. What I will say is fill yourself, like, you know, when you rock up to Christmas lunch and there's pre-lunch snack table.
Yeah.
Limit that is what I would say. Don't fill yourself up on all the things before the main course. Okay. Like, have a little bit, but save yourself. Also, we'll get into like whether you drink or whether you don't. Yep. But like, make sure that you have a drink. Why not have a drink? But like, maybe use your calories on the food. If you do have serious health and fitness goals, like, limit your alcohol and actually enjoy the food that is provided. And if you're going to go for seconds, thirds, fourths, whatever, do that with the protein sources. Like, do that with the ham, the turkey. I was going to ask you,
because the Benicis we do like an entire plate of prawns, me and my cousins.
Prawns, go to town on the prawns. Prawns are high protein. They're a lean protein source. Delicious. I mean, unless you're caking them in that that dipping sauce.
Garlic on the barbecue. That's it.
Prawns. Go for the prawns. I wish my family did more prawns and seafood. My family don't do a lot of seafood, and I think I need to change that.
That's got to be your move. You got to bring in the age brackets now. We start bringing stuff. Prawns is too expensive though.
Prawns is expensive. Crazy. Yeah. Even oysters, guys. Oysters are a great entree if you're dining out. True. Also low calorie, high protein.
Aphrodisiac also.
Yes. What else? Turkey and ham. Turkey's like your leanest. Yeah. Turkey's like your leanest meat. Turkey's actually really high in protein and lean in like fat. Like, it doesn't contain much fat. Whereas like salmon and like lamb and pork, like all that, like the pork crackle and stuff. See you later with fats, but again, it's Christmas Day. Fucking enjoy it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then what I would say is when it comes to the dessert table, I almost would say,
danger zone.
Are you going to be a dessert or are you going to be a
meal?
Like dessert or no, as in dessert or alcohol.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, like pick your battles as we spoke about last week. And then that would mean if you want to do the dessert, don't just put everything on your plate before you like what I would do is do a walk around, look at all the options, and then pick like 2 of your favorites.
Yeah.
And I always weigh it up and say to my clients, what is going to be the best, like what is going to be most worth the calories? Like what is the one thing that you're going to look at go, I don't give a fuck what the calories are in that, because that is worth it. And then weigh up, all right, am I going to eat this and go, oh fuck, it wasn't even that good? You know, so try and make that assumption in your head before you actually eat it.
Correct.
And that is how you can be more intuitive, and that is how you can actually consciously, mindfully eat.
Stick to the winners.
Stick to the winners. What's your winner? What's your
winner?
Like what's your
no?
ghost?
Because I would already like on the choice. I'd go booze because I'm the cousin that walks around with the bottle of Fireball to give everyone Fireball the whole day.
Oh,
so I'm done already. Yeah.
Next week we have an episode dedicated to Christmas. So let's talk about how we celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
What we actually, whether we are more alcohol, whether we're more whatever, we're going to do that next week on the episode. Cool. So everybody, that is a wrap of this week's podcast episode dedicated to meal planning, tracking macros, intuitive eating, and a blend of what they all are, their perks, their pros, their cons, and which method is best suited to you. I will also say that take this with a grain of salt. This is also our personal opinion, and it is not taken as medical advice. So quick disclaimer on there, make sure that you do seek a professional expert for any nutritional advice and what method is going to be the best for you. But I would love to wish you all, a happy holidays. We are going to be back for our final episode next week, and that is going to be exciting. We're going to get right into the Chrissy spirit.
Nice.
We're going to get some Chrissy hats on, some wine. I'm bloody keen for it. And then, and then we will be taking a break over January. But that is it for now. If you loved this episode or you found it entertaining, you found it insightful and or valuable, we would absolutely love for you to share it to your IG story. Don't forget to tag the Evolve to Thrive podcast on your way, and be sure to reach out in the DMs if you have anything that you want to mention or say. Thank you. Love you all. As always, catch you later and see you next week.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.